Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay. So, when I was a little boy, I wanted to become a magician. Because what fascinated me about being a magician was doing the impossible and making things that were not possible and turning them into reality. I didn't end up as a magician, as you can see. But in a way, you know, in design research, we also try to do the impossible and make it a reality so people can today play with technology that might exist in the future. And we can ask them, do you want it to be that way or not? So my research is about our relationship to technology. And to be honest, my relationship to my mobile phone is complicated and ambiguous. So, on the one hand, it's great because it multiplies my ability to communicate with people, and I love that. But on the other hand, it's putting me into a zombie mode. Do you know that? It's like a zombie, philosophically speaking, is a human without consciousness, without conscious perception of itself and of the world around him. And that's what the phone does to me. And that's not good. I think what we have to learn is this. To let go. Ouch! Ah, that hurts. I could never do that to my real phone. This is, of course, something I bought on eBay. I couldn't do that to this. It's too painful, really. And that's what I mean with the intimate relationship between us and technology. It's a part of us. And we will explore this further today. I would like to do a little exercise with you. Everybody, please take out your mobile phone. Don't worry, you don't have to do this. Enter your PIN code, or do the fingerprint thing, and show me your display when you're done. Okay, everybody wrote, oh, lots of phones. Wow. Okay, and now just give it to your neighbor. Oh, that was mean, right? Yeah. If you have it with you, you can take your wallet and give it to the other neighbor. Well, that's not as bad, is it? Okay, how does it feel? What's the first emotion that comes to your head? Naked. Yeah. Okay, you give it back. I just wanted to explore this feeling with you. Okay. And I mean, for me it was recently on the bus. I was observing a young guy and he was trapped in his mobile phone. He was like going from email to social media to news, back to email, like a tiger in the cage, you know, hoping to find anything, but not finding anything. And the worst thing about this guy was that it was me myself. I was trapped in the mobile phone and I know it, but I can't get out, and that's not good. And I hope that in the future the relationship between people and technology will be more relaxed. And I think wearables are a good way to go. So today I would like to show you some of the projects from the Design Research Lab, from my colleagues, and they explore different ways of combining interactivity and textiles. Let me show you one example, and this is the mobile LORM glove by Tom Beeling. Do you know what LORM is? Nobody knows that. Well, I will explain it to you. LORM is an alphabet for deaf-blind people. People who cannot see and cannot hear. For these people, there is an alphabet that you touch into the hand. You will see that here. So, for example, the vowels are on the fingertips. You can see the A, the E, the I, and so on. So every letter we have in the alphabet has a representation on the hand. So it's a way of tactile communication. If you're deafblind and you can do it, that's good, because you can, you know, it's not like braille, you have to print it, you can just do it with your hands. But it also has a disadvantage. You have to be there in person. You can't do it over a distance. I can't reach you, so we can't LORM. So Tom developed a prototype, which is the mobile LORM glove. And this is a communication device for this LORM alphabet, for deaf-blind people. On the inside of the glove, there is a sensitive matrix of pressure sensors, textile sensors, and you can LORM into the hand. And on the back of it, there are vibration motors, so you can also get LORM, basically. And what this does is, of course, it opens a whole new world for these people, because it's connected through Bluetooth to the mobile phone. So you can enter text through LORM into the phone, and you can also receive it through the phone into the glove and feel it. For example, you can tell something to many people at once. With LORM you can only do one at one. With LORM you can only do one by one, sorry. So it's a new way of bringing the digital and the communication with many people and over a distance and this very tactile thing together. And I think a glove is a great example because your fingers stay flexible and so on. And this is a view into our workshop. We have just opened a new space in our lab, and it's called the Fiber Space. So it's where we build interactive textiles, and it's all handmade, really. So we have a loom and a knitting machine. It's pretty old school, actually, because you have to understand how the yarn goes through the textile and so on, because only then you can do things, you know, how do you make a pressure sensor or a stretch sensor out of textile? Here's another example. This is work by Katharina Bredis, and this was about folding. And Katharina's prototypes often explore ways of interacting with textile computers that are impossible with non-textile computers, with iPads, for example. And folding is something I can't do with my iPad. So this is a quilt. And this quilt, you know, the story of quilts is that in earlier days when quilts were made, it was all about stories. It was a social event of meeting and making the quilt. So this is like a safe for messages. You can record a message in a secret way into the quilt. There is a little recorder inside. And you do that by folding it. It has little folding sensors. It knows how it's folded. And then you can speak a message into the quilt. And the next time you fold it the same way, it will replay the message. This is just an experiment of how, you know, folding can be sensed in textile and what we can do with it. Or this is, for example, something like a loop scarf. Is that the correct word in English? Loop scarf? You know what I mean. But this is also interactive because it's connected via Bluetooth to the phone and the MP3 player. And you can go to the next song by rotating the scarf around you, or go back by doing this. It's very simple, but it's something you can only do with a textile computer. This is, any ideas what this is? It's a wave cap, right? This is a radio. So Katharina hacked a radio, and she rewired the buttons and the sliders of the radio to textile sensors. So for example, the string with the balls, this is a volume control. So you pull on the one side, getting louder. You pull on the other, it's getting more silent. And you turn it on and off by simply making a knot into the cap, because there is conductive yarn in there, and when you make a knot in there, the switch is connected. Otherwise, it's not, so the radio is off. Very simple ways of interaction. I think that's great. You know, it's not like you have to take out the phone, open it, and touch some buttons. It's just, you just make a knot. You do it on the side, basically. OK, this is something different. This is it's an adapter, I would say. It's a programming language for people who cannot program, textile designers, for example. If you made a textile and you put in some sensors and some LEDs and maybe a speaker, you can use this iPad app to connect the textile you made to a phone. So for example, you can connect these switches to the play button and the next song and the previous song buttons on the phone. You upload it to both devices, and then they are married and they will, you know, Bluetooth talk happily ever after. So this is really easy to make interactive applications on textile and connect them to the phone, even if you can't program. This is an exploration that Katharina made into sensors. Because when you think about it, you can, of course, sense different things with textile computers than you could with a touchscreen, for example. For example, squeezing is something. I can't squeeze my phone, but you can squeeze a textile artifact, and there are different ways, of course, to interact with these. They can be, squished. They can be twisted. They can be, this is interesting, they can be endlessly turned inside out. And that is, of course, something we don't have in classic human-computer interaction. But the question is, what would you do with that? This is something that's I think, very innovative that Katharina invented. It's using conductive Velcro to connect the washable parts of the textile to the non-washable parts. And you just stick the circuit board to it, and you have it interactive. And if you want to wash it, you can't wash the circuit board. You have to take out the circuit board, and you can also attach it to something else, of course. Oh, this is really exciting. Any idea what it is? It's knitted speakers. You know, a speaker is traditionally a coil and a magnet, and that's what this is as well. It's a very strong magnet and a knitted coil. So these are speakers that are flexible and even washable, I think. And I think it's really exciting to see that a speaker doesn't have to be hard. It can be bendable and flexible. It can be integrated into, for example, a hat you're wearing. And of course, embroidering is great for making more complex circuits. This is also washable, and it's great if you have a complex circuit board layout and you want to make that a bendable and flexible textile. This is a sensor for carpal tunnel syndrome. If you tend to have your wrist working on the computer maybe all day in a very uncomfortable position, but you don't notice it, this sensor, which you can wear simply on your wrist, will inform you, hey, you should move a bit, you should take a break, or like what you're doing is unhealthy. And I think that's a good way of applying interactive textiles for our everyday lives, like making us aware of something we are probably not, and disappearing into the background. This is also a project by Katharina, and this is about stroke patients. You know, when I'm a stroke patient, I probably wear a red button around my neck, and like, okay, I can call for help with it, yes. But it's also stigmatizing, and I don't want that. So the knit alarm is the same thing. It's a way to call for help, but it stays in the background, and it's perfectly invisible, actually. So it's via Bluetooth linked to the phone, and when I do this, when I, do this here, it will call for help, and it will make an emergency call to someone I programmed to the phone first. It's a very simple way of, I would say, having technology in the background and not getting in the way. And I think that's great. Because, if you remember, we just looked into our relationship to our phones. It should be more in the background, shouldn't it? But at the same time, I ask myself, what is the problem? Is the problem really the technology? Actually not. It's me, myself, because it's me who, when I'm bored, and think of these moments of boredom, of loneliness, of weakness, I'm pulling out the phone and killing the moment of boredom. And that's not good. I think we must not lose our ability to stand boredom. It's really important for us, for our creativity and for our reflection and so on. On the weekend, actually, I want to try that with you. I learned a very interesting exercise about multitasking, because that's what phones today lure us into. It's multitasking. So everybody, I would like to take the time for that. I would like you to count from 1 to 10 loud, as fast as you can. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, go. Great. 1.9 seconds. All right. Keep that in mind. Now, letters from A to J or so. A, B, C, D, and so on. 1, 2, go. Good. 2.7 seconds. This is something we can do really well, no problem. Now I want you to go A1, B2, and so on. Go like mix the two. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, 6 seconds. That's the problem with multitasking. Fascinating, isn't it? Both are things we do really no problem, but if we mix them, it becomes a problem. And I think that's a very important lesson about our relationship to technology, because it's interrupting us, and wearables have the chance to stay in the background. Also, our current relationship reminds me so much of the evil queen in the fairy tale of Snow White and her relationship to the mirror. It's a very intimate relationship, and she goes like, mirror, mirror on the wall. She's probably scrolling down her Facebook, or she's Googling herself, actually. That's what the queen does in the fairy tale. She wants to know who's the most beautiful in the country, and we probably check for who's got the most interesting life or so. And that's dramatic, because there is no happy end for the queen. But at the same time, I think she's lucky, because she only has a desktop version of that mirror, and we have mobile versions. So we better be careful about this relationship. So on this little journey to the future of our interactions with technology, I would like to take a little detour now with you to the past, when cars were invented. Because cars are also something, some people have a very intimate relationship to. But when they were invented, cars were something, functional. It was easier and probably safer than with a horse to get from A to B. The function was in the center. But then, at probably 1950s or so, somebody thought, hey, why don't we make cars emotional products that people buy because they want a status symbol or so? And it happened. It worked pretty good, actually. If I have a cool car, some people might think, hey, I'm a cool guy, and so on. And when there's a scratch in there, I'm personally hurt. Not good. But what's interesting, I think, is that it recently changed with car sharing. Who uses car sharing? Okay, yeah, lots of people, right. And I don't own a car anymore, and my relationship to this car is really functional. I log in, I use it, I get from A to B, I log out, and that's it. If there's a scratch in there, I'm not personally hurt. I have to pay for it maybe, okay. But I'm not personally hurt. I think that's a good example for a development of the relationship between human and technology towards a relaxed relationship. And that's what I think what's important, and that's what I think what wearables can do for us. Stay in the background like a butler and leave the human in the center. Because what must not happen to us is, I'm always thinking of Darth Vader. He's so dramatic because he's a mixture of machine and human, unable to exist without the machine part. And that's not good. And I'm scared of Google Glass and Google contact lenses because I can't close my eyes from them. I think what's really important that with all this technical possibility that is there is that in the end we don't turn into a computer ourselves, but stay human. Thank you very much.